the Apache Junction Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019. It's now 7 p.m., and if everyone would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Rudy.
Commissioner Hanchey.
Present.
Vice Chair Heck.
Present.
Commissioner Howard.
Here.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Here.
Commissioner McGraw.
Here.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Present.
Commissioner Uli.
Here.
Everyone present. We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. And can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission accept the agenda as presented.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Roll call vote?
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanchey.
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Yes.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay. Can we do both the minutes together?
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. We have two of them. We have the regular meeting minutes of April 9th, 2019, and we have the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission combined meeting with Parks and Rec Commission that was held January 8th, 2019. Can I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the minutes from the April 9th, 2019 regular meeting and the minutes from the special joint meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission of January 8th, 2019.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanchey.
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
No.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 against. We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to the public hearings. The first one is presentation, discussion, and public hearing and consideration of case SD-2-18, a request by Macmillan Manufactured Home Development Company, LLC, and Lennar Homes.
Good evening, Commission. For the record, my name is Sidney Rice, planner here on staff. Tonight I'll be giving a short presentation on Goldview by Lennar, SD-218, SD-218, and PZ-518. Here we have the aerial map. The project is located near the intersection of Old West Highway and Goldfield Road. The current zoning on the project is B1, general commercial. The applicant is proposing to rezone this parcel, as outlined in red here, to RS5 with a planned development overlay. In addition to the planned development overlay rezone, the applicant is also proposing an approval of a preliminary plat of approximately 38 gross acres for a 179-lot residential subdivision. Here we have the existing zoning map. To the north of the property, we have Mountain View Lutheran Church, zone PIPD. To the east, we have vacant land, zoned RSGR, and then to the south, we also have vacant land zoned B1PD and RSGR. To the west, we have a single-family development, but it is located in a county island. Here we have the proposed lot layout and landscape plan. As you can see, it has a number of features. They're proposing entrances on Goldfield Road here, and one on Star on the northwestern side of the development. In addition to that, they're also proposing a central park located right off kind of the entrance there. The park proposes a number of features that the applicant will go over. Here we have the proposed monument signs. The top graphic there notes the monument architecture as a cross-section as a whole. The southern picture is kind of a zoomed-in version of that to note the architecture and the material types, which the applicant will also go over. As part of this application, these two applications, the applicant provided architecture, floor plans, and elevations. The applicant is proposing 5 floor plans with 3 distinct elevations. Staff has reviewed these floor plans and elevations and is supportive of the exhibits. As mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, this is a planned development, so that the applicant is proposing some deviations to the zoning ordinance. The deviations are outlined in red. Few of these deviations, just to go over briefly, are minimum lot width from 50 to 45, the minimum lot area from 5,000 square feet to 4,675, an increase in lot coverage from 60% to 65%, and also a reduction in setbacks for front, side, and rear setback. Also as part of this process, the site was posted. To note this meeting here tonight, notices were also sent to the neighbors for a 300-foot radius as noted and required by the zoning ordinance, and it was advertised from the paper. Up to this point, staff has not received any input or questions from the neighbors or the public. The recommendation from staff is approval of SD 218 and PZ 518, subject to the very standard conditions of approval found in the staff report. That concludes the presentation from staff. I know the applicant would also like to make a presentation at this time.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for staff before we move on? Okay, thank you very much. Would the applicant wish to speak? Mr. Pugh?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Ralph Pugh. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight on behalf of Lennar Homes. With me tonight, you'll see Mr. David McMullen in the audience, who is the property owner. We were just reminiscing that it's been over 2 decades since he's owned this land, and we're really grateful to be here tonight on the PD request and the preliminary plat. Also with us is Mr. Todd Scorrell from Lennar Homes and Dennis Roberts, our engineer from Atwell. So, Madam Chair, Sydney explained everything, and I don't want to bore you with any of those details. I think we might go directly to the site layout and recognize the entrances on Goldfield and the entrance on Star. Those are the 2 access points to the community. We have also agreed, as part of the stipulations, to make improvements along Star and on the southern boundary. Todd, are there also improvements on Goldfield? Or yes. There will be some also then on Goldfield. We've also agreed, just so you understand and recognize, to improve Star out to Old West Highway and to continue it north beyond our property. The unique thing about this project and the reason for requesting the PD is to deviate from some of the development standards in the code. And I think that one of the main reasons for that, first of all, lot sizes and lot coverage are important to preserve the single-family and the single-story nature of this project. We have agreed that all homes will be single-story. So in that regard, we have asked for a 5% increase in the coverage on a lot for those all single-story homes. We've also requested, as Cindy indicated, a few deviations on the setbacks, side and rear yards and that type of thing. So what is it, commissioners, that deserves your support for that? And one of the main items is the amount of open space. The project has 6 acres, roughly, of open space. And one of the main amenities you'll see here is the central, we'll go back to the main entrance there coming off of Goldfield. As you come into the project going west off of Goldfield, the first thing you will see and visually impact you is this large open space. And you can see the amenities here that are included: the concrete walk, the bocce ball court, you got boulders to climb, engineered wood fiber play surfaces, there's a hillside there, there's swing sets, there's seats, there's precast concrete cornhole games and precast concrete ping pong table. With a Ramada there on item number 7 with picnic tables and grills. We think it's going to be a really, really nice amenity for the owners of homes within this project. And it is improvements like that to the common areas that, in our opinion, merit your support of the PD in this application. One of the things that's important to you as commissioners and ultimately to council members is to comply with and to make sure that the project adheres to the findings that are required in conjunction with the PD application. So briefly to summarize those, the first finding you have to ask yourself is, could this project have been better designed if it had strictly adhered to your code and there were no deviations from it? And I think as you look at the overall design of the project, the landscaping, the common areas, open space, our opinion is the answer to that is no. It would not necessarily be a better project if it strictly adhered to every aspect of the code. The second finding that you need to make is that if the project, would it be necessary for this project to have strict adherence to code requirements in order to preserve the health, safety, and welfare of the community and the area around it? Again, our conclusion to that is no. Adhering to the standards very, very specifically would not make this project any safer or any more palatable to the community around it. In fact, the third finding, which I'm coming to now, we believe leads to the conclusion that it enhances it. So the third finding is, would strict adherence to the code ensure the preservation of property values in the area? Well, our feeling about that also is no. In fact, allowing the PD enhances, in our opinion, the area, the quality of the homes, the amenities to the project. And the interesting thing about Lennar, and then I'll quit boring you tonight, every one of these homes is what's called a Wi-Fi connected home by Lennar. Lennar has a unique partnership with Amazon, where they have the Alexa device in every home. They also have electronically controlled thermostats, doorbells, cameras at the doorbells, and many other things I'm sure I'm forgetting, but it is totally connected electronically to those types of systems. And importantly is that the Wi-Fi within the home, there are hotspots throughout the home that have been pre-wired and pre-connected. So you're not going to have that router issue of who gets the router and what room's it going to be in and how's it going to function. So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, we believe that after the general plan amendment, which was done, I think, in September of last year, it's taken us a while to refine things and get to you, but we believe it's a meritorious project, and we urge your recommendation of approval for the reasons that both the staff has indicated and we've summarized here this evening. So if you have any questions, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to take those.
Question?
Yes, I have a chair, a question, thank you. It indicated in our packages that Lennar is the nation's largest home builder. And you've indicated here that there's been a lot of marketing research done with respect to the need or even the want for larger or smaller lot sizes. Can you talk to me a little bit about what kind of market research has been done to quantify that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner, I can't describe for you exactly the research. I could maybe have Mr. Scorrell come and do that, but Lennar does pay attention to those kind of details in every community that they develop. We've been privileged to help them on several of those, and lot sizes truly are headed in the direction that you're talking about and that we have found. More important to home buyers these days, at least to many, is the common area and the open spaces. But Todd, do you have any details on who did that study and where that came from? With that, I think that's the question
Yes.
you're asking. Yeah.
Good evening, Ms. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Todd Scorrell, Vice President of Lennar. I'm Vice President of Land Project Management. So I don't really actually directly get involved in that market research. However, I have an internal team that does that for us. And some of their findings were that the size of these home sites is really because this is going to be a dual income household. Most of these are going to be dual income households that live here. Whether they still have long commutes, they're probably not going to have a lot of time to necessarily spend doing yard maintenance. And so we need to make these so that it's manageable for either a dual income family, a single mom, a single dad with some children, empty nesters, retirees, you name it. That's the sole purpose, and that's our target market, is all those I just mentioned there.
Thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else?
Madam
Peter?
Chair?
Yep.
Reporting for duty.
Mr. Pugh, I have a question. I know I think I'm the one that probably beats this horse constantly, but this entrance, egress and ingress to the community. So I appreciate the fact that you've created that entrance on Star Road. Can you talk to us a little bit about the improvements you're doing to Goldfield? My concern is that putting vehicles out crossing over, if they're allowed to make a left turn onto Goldfield heading north, it seems like there's some concerns I have. Can you address a little bit what,
Yeah.
because you talked about some improvements?
Yep, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, heck, let me, again, when you ask hard questions, I need the smart people up here. So let's invite Dennis Roberts, if he would. Can you give us an idea, Dennis, on the nature of the improvements onto the perimeter streets?
Hello, my name is Dennis Roberts. I'm with Atwell. I'm the engineer of record on this project. The improvements proposed as part of the Goldfield Road improvements is the half-street improvements. There's going to be additional 12-inch water main installed to loop the entire project. We're going to be improving the pavement over the water line out to another 2 feet with an addition of a curb and sidewalk and landscape along the right-of-way.
Okay, but now there's a median right there, am I correct?
The median is north of our entrance, so there's no, it's open for left or right turn lane,
Full movement.
full
Okay,
movement
all right.
access.
Is that-
So you will allow vehicles to make a left turn heading north on Goldfield Road?
There's capacity and room for the
Okay.
Yeah, there
turns. Mhm.
Okay.
That it?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
Yeah, Willie?
I want to piggyback on something Commissioner Heck said. It just looks like two entrances may not be enough for the number of properties that we're looking at. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Howard, typically, I can't quote exactly Apache Junction's ordinance with respect to that, but I'm sure Rudy or Sydney will know. Generally speaking, 100 units is a threshold in many communities for two entrances. We have 179 here, so it fits really nicely within the parameters of what you would expect for two entrances. It would be a little unusual here to have three. That really normally happens when you have larger properties and more units than this. I know it seems a little counterintuitive as you look at it, but that's pretty much within the standards as we typically see in the industry.
I appreciate your response. I have a follow-up to that.
Sure.
If there was an emergency in the far left corner down here, and everybody's rushing for the gate, is there not an emergency exit that could be utilized? And I'm asking.
Yeah. No, Madam Chair, Commissioner Howard, at this time, to my knowledge, traffic safety and public safety has not, have they, Todd? I don't think we've been asked to do an emergency exit.
We actually have 2 points of access, and this is not a gated community,
Okay, so I mean,
public streets.
again, it's all public streets, so the entrance on Goldfield will not be gated, and the one on Star is not gated. But there is not a need, or have we been requested by public safety for an emergency access. That typically occurs when there's one entrance and you're on the threshold and close to the boundary between the number of units.
Okay.
We're just, we don't fit that category.
Okay.
Larry, Rudy, just to kind of add to this, I presume that city engineer, police department, fire department have all looked at this. They've seen where the entry and exit is off of Old West Highway and Goldfield, and they don't have any issue with it.
Madam Chair, this
Yeah.
project went through a number of reviews with the Public Works Department, in specific to the project engineer, and they are in agreement with the applicant in terms of improvements and the number of entrances and things of that nature.
Do you know if it was ever specifically discussed that, I'm going to make an assumption here, that a lot of people who are going to come here are going to come home by way of the freeway, so they're going to come on 60, they're going to exit and come up going north on Goldfield, and then, as Peter had said, they're going to turn left to, they're not going to drive clear up to Old West Highway and up here at the top. They're going to enter right here off of Goldfield Road, which means they're going to be turning left across oncoming traffic that people fly around that corner. That's not an issue then. They think that there's enough distance from Old West Highway down Goldfield for cars turning.
Madam Chair, that is correct. In fact, throughout the review process, there was an option between connecting Star into Old West Highway, or I'm sorry, connecting Southern into Old West Highway or Star. Through the analysis that staff did, it was deemed more appropriate and safer to have Star connect to Old West Highway.
Okay. All right. This way, anybody? Questions? Yep.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, just one more question, Mr. Pugh. So, and just looking at that, again, as Chairman Nestor just mentioned, so the vehicles coming off of the 60, turning left, heading north on Goldfield, there's only going to be, again, one lane there, right? So if cars are making a left, there's other traffic, those cars will all back up. There's not going to be any turn lane or anything about, is that
Madam
correct?
Chair, Vice Chair, I was just asking Professor Scorrell the answer to that question. Todd, would you be good enough to help us understand that? Yeah.
There is one of those yellow dual turn lanes there. That is where the queuing or the stacking would occur for left-hand turns into the community.
Okay.
So it would not impede Goldfield Road.
How long
Yeah,
is
it's
it?
not real
How
long,
many-
I don't think.
How many
vehicles?
cars can
Yeah.
stack up in there?
Well, it's not only in front of our property, but it goes in front of the adjacent property to the south of us, which is, are vacant at the time. And then the ADOT right-of-way is actually fairly deep at that point. So how many feet? That's
So
a
it's
great
going to be
question.
that long, clear back down,
Yeah.
That's how far it goes down right now.
okay?
Yeah.
Oh,
And there's enough then for vehicles will recognize they can pull into that
Absolutely.
lane and turn.
Absolutely. And so that yellow lane actually terminates where that new, or that the existing median is, or I call it a pork chop, that gets you into the Old West Highway.
okay.
Okay, all right.
Well, if there's no other questions, I'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the public here who would like to speak? Please come up and give your name and address. And you have 5 minutes?
Yes, ma'am. 5 minutes, wow. My name's Jason Sinelli. I live in the county island. The property I own is where the word Star Road is on there.
Can you give them your address?
Yeah, I live at 2571 South Acacia Road, Apache Junction. And anyway, I've been following this development since its inception, and met with these guys and asked a lot of questions, came to the meetings. And one of the things I heard tonight, which really I was happy to hear, was that they are going to do single-story homes. My father-in-law homesteaded the home that we live in 1958. I've told this story before. Star Road used to be Birch Lane, because Mrs. Birch's house is right there, and our road was J. Bardee Road. It's now Acacia. So we have a big history there. My wife was born and raised there. We bought the house from our in-laws about 20-some years ago, and we just recently purchased the property directly adjacent to this property. So with the single-story homes, if the lot sizes are different size, I heard that and kind of was concerned about that, but knowing that that's the reason, I'm in favor of this development rather than, we heard there was going to be a Kia dealership here one time, I mean, all kinds of stuff. So with that, we're in support of the development. and just wanted to say that. There are also going to be improvements to the water. My water line dead ends, and there's a guy out there every morning that tests it from the water company just to make sure that the water's, good. And so this is going to relieve a little bit of that flow of water that comes down the dead end at our road. So that's another thing that I value in this development. That's about it.
All right,
And I think that Lennar's been very open with everything all on the way, so, and I appreciate that. Appreciate your time, thank you.
thank you. Anyone else? No one? Okay, I'll close the public portion and open this up for any discussion. Nobody? The only thing I would like to add is, if you'd go back to that map, Rudy. That's okay. I'd just like to ask Lennar to consider, it's not a deal breaker, but no.
No?
Keep going.
No,
No, keep
No?
going.
All right, the applicants? Okay.
no,
Maybe it's
I was gonna say, I don't remember, it was the last one. Anyway, right up there next to house number 15, I do believe there's, right up here next to house number 15, if you would consider putting a Ramada up there. And putting one down in the retention basin in the lower left-hand corner.
Let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can
Because
do.
the only reason I bring that up is, one of the things I always look at is, this is nice down here, and I love all the amenities, but 3/4 of everybody that's living there is gonna have to travel down to that corner,
Indeed.
And so if there was just a little Ramada up by number 15 and one in that retention basin, it can be built right in the retention basin, one of those metal picnic tables, metal,
Yeah.
just like the city has in the parks,
We try to keep them high and dry, though, whenever
well,
we build
put
them. And
concrete.
I've got that area kind of right now engineered for absorbing a lot of the water coming off of Old West Highway.
I understand.
But let me see what I can do and find something. If I can't do a Ramada, would you be okay with some other form of active recreation, whether that be additional cornholes or,
Well, I was thinking of Ramada, just so that all these other people, if they want to take their kids down there and go have a picnic, they could
okay.
there in those two locations. That kind of gives it a 3-point, and so everybody has a little place to go have a picnic.
would you permit me the flexibility, instead of a manufactured Ramada, to do a concentration of some canopy trees for shade?
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Something that's for passive
I'm just
or-
throwing that
yeah.
out there just so that everybody doesn't have to troop all through everybody else's streets just to get down here.
Duly noted. Let me see what I can do.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments about anything? Any discussion? Nothing? Nobody?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just reaching back on my experience as a police officer and patrolling this area, some of the concerns as far as traffic. This is my beat, and granted, it's been 10 years since I've been retired, but the traffic along in through here is not, there's not a lot of it. It's pretty light traffic. So as far as the turning and all that, it's probably not going to impact the area that much. I do like the fact that Star Road is going to be improved to Old West Highway. But all in all, if anybody recalls, when we first saw this, however many months ago it was, that was one of the things that I wanted to see was an entryway onto Goldfield. And I think where it's at is probably as good as you're going to get. That median there is fairly long, as they were saying, so I don't see any traffic issues, emergency or otherwise, in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, you can get in at the bottom here as well, can't you, and go back around to the other side of the community?
Yes.
So there's actually another point there, so everybody wouldn't necessarily have to go in that main entrance coming off the freeway there.
Say
Correct.
that again? Oh, you can, Down here at the
Right
very
there.
southern, oh,
Yeah, and then you
Oh.
can go back up around to the back of the neighborhood.
But that, oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
is that, oh, I didn't realize
I
that.
didn't realize that was a connector.
Okay,
So that southern road is 28th Avenue,
okay,
and it'll turn at 90 degrees northbound onto Star Road, which will take you to that residential access point.
okay.
So people
Alright.
can leave and come that way as well.
Well, that's even better then.
Oh, yeah.
All right, then if there's no further discussion, I'll call for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Apache Junction City Council the approval of Plan Development Rezoning Case PZ-5-18, a request by McMillan Manufactured Home Development Company, LLC, and Lennar Homes owner, represented by Ralph Pugh, for a 179-lot residential subdivision tentatively to be named Goldfield, located approximately at the southwest corner of Old West Highway and Goldfield Road, from B5 Industrial to RS-5/PD, medium-high density, single-family detached conventional homes by plan development. Subject to the following conditions of approval, and those include conditions 1 through 9, all listed in the staff report dated April 23rd, 2019.
before I ask for a second, Joel, were we supposed to make findings of fact?
I don't think so.
Well, you're supposed to have a reasonable interpretation of the rules, and yes, Mr. Pugh did mention those 3 items. I mean, it's not a CUP,
Yeah,
but, and this is a recommendation which goes to the council, so it'd be good if you incorporated those 3 items that he referenced from the code.
can Peter just make them part of his motion?
Yes.
Or his recommendation?
Yes,
Oh, I need to do this again, then.
No, you can just add in
just add them in now.
the findings of fact
Okay,
that they
all right.
do or
Okay.
don't apply.
Okay, then, in addition to the 9 stated conditions listed in the staff report dated April 23rd, 2019, I also recommend to include the 3 findings of fact, again, listed or stated in the staff report dated April 23rd, 2019.
Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second. Madam Chair?
Yes.
There's a typo on the first page of that motion. It says B5, it actually should say it's B1.
Where, what?
So when you read that introductory part, Mr. Heck, just want to make sure that motion,
What page are you on?
on the staff report where it says recommended, page 6,
And you're saying which now?
that big, long thing that Peter read.
Yeah,
So about the
Oh, it's
7th
five.
line down, it says from
five.
B5 industrial, it should say from B1
Yeah,
commercial to RS5 PD.
are you making that change, Peter?
do I need to reread this?
No.
then?
No, you don't need to read it.
Okay, so,
Just saying,
All right,
did you
so
make
I
that
will-
change?
yes, I did.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, did I ask for a second?
I second it.
You seconded. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote?
Commissioner McGraw,
Yes.
Chairwoman Nesser,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanshi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck,
Yes,
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
Rezoning is recommended for approval, Madam Chair.
Okay. Let me see.
and then I have to do the preliminary plat.
Yeah, we're all,
Okay.
where are we?
It's page 8.
I was gonna say, where's my page? I've got them all mixed up. Now we'll make you want both, right? In the same,
Yes, we need another motion for the pre-plat.
yeah. A motion for preliminary plot.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Apache Junction City Council the approval of preliminary plat case SD-2-18, a request by McMillan Manufactured Home Development Company, LLC, and Lennar Homes, the owner, represented by Ralph Pugh, for 179-lot residential subdivision tentatively to be named Goldfield, Goldview, located approximately at the southwest corner of Old West Highway and Goldfield Road, subject to the following conditions of approval. And those include the 5 conditions as stated in the staff report dated April 23rd, 2019.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner McGraw,
Yes.
Chairwoman Nesser,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanshi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
So moved, Madam Chair. These cases will go to the City Council on
May 7th.
May 7th.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for bringing a very nice subdivision to our town. Appreciate it.
It's going to be nice.
Make something really nice in those areas that could use more ramadas.
Thank you.
Not that there is.
You and them, Ramadas.
We'll move on to presentation, discussion, public hearing, and consideration of rezoning case PZ-1-19, a city-initiated rezoning request for the Prickly Pear RV Park. And we have, I don't have a name.
Let's get the. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Kelsey Shatnick, and I'm one of the planning interns here at the city. And this is a city-initiated rezoning of the Prickly Pear RV Park from RVP to B2/PD. So the RV park is located at 1630 West Apache Trail, near the intersection of North Ironwood and Apache, and it is currently zoned RVP, or Recreational Vehicle Park. Here's an aerial map to give you more of an idea of the location of this RV park. And you can see from this map that it's located on 2 different parcels, and it's important to note that there's a billboard located on the southeast corner of the T-shaped property along West Apache Trail. Here's a zoning map that shows the surrounding properties. As you can see, there are both commercial, the B1 and B2, as well as residential RVP and RS20M. So again, we're rezoning from RVP, Recreational Vehicle Park, to B2/PD, Old West Commercial by Plan Development. And the planning staff sees this as an opportunity to eliminate 2 non-conforming uses, as well as allowing for future commercial development on the property. Subject to these conditions, the use of the RV park will be allowed to continue as a non-conforming use, and as well as 3 RV spaces being allowed on the property where apartments used to exist. Number 2, the lease of the billboard shall not be renewed at the end of its current lease. And we moved to strike number 3 because we have already received a copy of the lease. And number 4, I won't read this whole thing to you, but it's essentially describing the palette of uses we will allow on the B2 zoning. And then finally, just that all developments on the property are subject to proper permits and inspections. And if this is approved, then it will go to council on May 23rd. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Madam Chair. Give me an idea of how this is going to fit into the beautification plan for Apache Trail.
Essentially, the B2 zoning will allow for future development that will help, develop the downtown area within the future, and then removal of the billboard will kind of help aesthetically along West Apache Trail.
And a follow-up question, if I may, what is the commercial future for this piece of property? Can you tell me that?
That's unknown right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Willie? Anything?
Madam
Peter?
Chair? Kelsey, who does the owner of this of this park, does the owner own the billboard? Is that why the big issue about this billboard?
They have a lease of the billboard, but they do not own it.
Own
It
it,
is a
okay.
separate company.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's called Outfront.
Okay, but then, how, if they don't own it, when the lease is up, how do you get rid of the billboard? Isn't the idea you're gonna get rid of the
Yeah,
billboard?
that's part of the discussion we've been having. That's why, as of last week, we did not have a copy of the lease. So one of our alternatives was to postpone the rezoning until we got that. We did get that. We have some correspondence back in 2015 that the then owner was giving them notice to, it was a 10-year lease, started in 1999. So in 2009, it renewed, I guess, automatically for another decade. So prior to September 30th of 2019 would be the next 10-year period. So the lease calls for a 90-day notice of termination. So that was done by email. We feel we wanted to make that a little more firm, so we have drafted a letter for the current owners to sign. The billboard company responded and said, yes, we acknowledge, although it took them, we don't have any correspondence other than last week, that they received the 2015 notification. So we think we need to more formally have the current owners notify the billboard company that the lease is not going to be extended. So part of this was because years ago, maybe Tess recalls, but where the Jack in the Box is, there was a billboard there. That was supposed to come down as part of a rezoning. It never did. The underlying property got sold. The billboard's still there. So we want to, so the city has had a tradition of doing these rezonings, like at Starbucks and Jack in the Box, to remove billboards as part of a rezoning. So we wanted to make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks. So I think we want to send the letter, have them sign it, send it certified, send it first class, hand deliver it, and the city attorney is also suggesting we record it, all to make sure that that billboard lease does not get renewed. And so there is an email correspondence on April 19th saying that, yes, they acknowledge the 2015 correspondence, but I think a letter with the current owner's signature will help cement that notice of termination.
Even if even doing all that and you don't renew it, what is in any original contract that's, who's to take it down? Who's to?
The tenant, the lessee would take it down. And that is in the email, that they would take it down on the 30th of September
So
of
the
2019.
the park has to take it down.
No, the
Oh.
billboard owner.
Okay.
It's assessed as personal
That's
property,
for-
so
yeah.
essentially it's a lease of personal property.
But does it give them in any specific amount of times? I mean,
Yes,
can they
they-
take 5 years to take it down?
No, it would be taken down immediately,
Okay.
at the end of the lease term.
Well, it didn't happen with Jack in the Box, so,
Well, again, I wasn't here then, I don't know the specifics of that. I don't know if we had a copy of the lease back then. But once the underlying property owner sold it, so they developed both parcels, I think the parcel got split, and then the Jack in the Box parcel got sold, and then it's, you're going down a rabbit hole at that point, looking to try to get that. So we're trying to prevent that here.
Madam Chair,
yes.
you can make that a condition if you want.
I
That's
was
part of
just
the,
going to say, would it help to put anything specific in there to say that the owner of that sign must have it removed within 90 days?
well, I
or-
wouldn't say the owner of the sign. I would say the owner of the property shall
Cause to be removed or whatever.
cause to be removed within so many days after the rezoning.
So the RV park owner.
Actually, within the deadline, I think is it September? I can't remember.
Mhm.
September?
Yeah, the lease
It's later this
September
year.
30th.
Yeah. So on or before that date, it needs to come down.
It has to be down,
Yes.
on or before. And you say the park owner then is responsible for
It's the property-
ensuring
The
that,
property owner, because that's who the rezoning is for.
okay, and that's who their contract is
Yeah,
with?
because the billboard owner is not a party to this rezoning.
Right, okay.
So just one more question to help me. So because the rezoning request is for this RV park, and because the sign is located on
Their
that property, that's the reason why the property owner has they have the responsibility to get rid of that. They can do that without the owner of the billboard fighting that.
Well, as long as the lease is done, basically, they'll probably talk to the owner of the billboard, say, okay, take it down. And I don't think it's in there, in the lease, it says how many days, and it doesn't say who has to take it down, but I think in general lease law, if it's their property, it's the billboard property owner, they'd want to take it down so that they can reuse some of the parts, I would assume.
Okay.
But you might want to have a condition that says it has to be down by that date. Otherwise, you can bring back this matter for a,
Down, and that day is by the end of September?
Yeah, the lease is over September 30th.
Okay.
so you may want to give
On or
them,
Maybe have to
before.
give them a little,
you may
On or
want to give
before
them another
September
month or
30th.
two?
why don't we do,
Huh?
give them another.
Another
30.
month or two, Rudy?
Okay.
I know
Say
you've been
October
trying.
31st, October 30. Sounds like they were, according to the email correspondence, they're going to take it down that day. So they're going to get
Oh.
full use of the 29th of September, and on the 30th, it would come down.
So we don't have any reason to extend it to
But
October 31st?
I think if you want to give the property owner 30 days,
Oh.
then you could say by October 31st, it's got to come down. Or
Or it has to be
or it becomes
down
zone-
by that day.
it has to be down by October
It has
31st,
to be removed by
October
October
31st.
31st.
Or it's a zoning violation, correct? Or it's we bring the zoning back and rezone it
I
back to
think-
RVP.
The stronger incentive, and I think the owners, I mean, from what I've seen, they want to take this thing down.
Okay.
But I think the incentive is for them to get to the billboard owner and say, hey, this has got to come down.
Well, working with the owners, we could give them the 30 days till October 31st.
They would have the 30 days, yes.
Okay. All right, I'm with it.
Does anybody down this way have any?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would think that by putting a 30-day time limit on there, it just gives the owners more teeth when dealing with the billboard owners. So if they're working with us to eliminate that sign, I think it would behoove us to provide them with that incentive to
them
get
some
that
leeway,
billboard taken
yeah.
down.
I agree. That's why I say no
So-
problem. Give them,
So you're saying to not give them that 30
No,
days or
give
two?
them.
No, put
Oh,
the 30
okay,
days
okay,
in
yeah.
there
Okay.
as just some added teeth to the current property owner.
any other questions?
I had some language, I didn't know we really discussed it with Joel, was that if nobody took it down, we could take it down and put a lien on the property, but I don't know how we would actually make that work.
I think we should have a neat session on that. That's not a good thing to talk in public.
That was another consideration that we were,
Okay.
How about an RPG or something?
You're getting off easy. Thank you. Do we have a, the owner, property owner here?
I don't believe so, no.
No? Is there anyone in the public who would like, here, that would like to, yes?
What's the,
Oh.
what's the punishment if they don't have it down? Are we not gonna do the zoning then, or what would it be?
I think
Because you have a
That's up to
30-day
them.
deadline, what would the punishment be?
Commissioner Henschel, I think what you could do is you could have a term that says, or a condition that says, if they don't bring it back, or if they don't have it down by that date, the staff will bring the matter back for basically revocation of the rezoning.
Do you want that, should that be in the?
It's an
the-
incentive. I mean, I think the owner, from what I've seen, they want to take it down because they want this rezoning. But to incentivize them, I think it would be good to have that language.
One
Okay.
thing to have a deadline, but if you have a deadline with nothing at stake, what's the good of the deadline?
You used to be able to do automatic reversions. You can't do that anymore. So it'd have to be another public hearing.
Should it be a separate condition?
Yes.
Number
Yes,
6?
I'm making it.
Okay.
actually,
you could replace
Actually, it'd be seven.
number 3 with a new number 3, because we deleted
Oh,
number
you
3.
do, deleting number 3, so when you make it, number 4 becomes number 3.
Or just
And then the-
replace number
Or
3,
just
either way.
replace
And
number
5,
3 with-
okay, just
But I
replace
still
it.
have
in-
to add another
Placing
one.
number
to
3
you.
would be easier.
Well, he's got a number 6, and it's gonna be kind of backwards then to go where,
Yeah,
where 3 would be number
yeah,
7
I'll-
after number 6.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah,
Okay, folks.
okay, sir, you're on.
Thank you very much. My name is Don Thonger. I am the owner of the property at 275 North Saguaro Drive,
Okay,
directly to the west of this property.
and would you give your address, please?
275 North Saguaro Drive. We would like to know what consideration is being given to the problems of water We have a huge, huge problem with water coming off this property onto our property, flooding our property. We've had to break out pretty well every one of the weep holes in our fence in order to try to get the water to escape. The property directly to the north of this property, the women's shelter, has built a retention pond, and within about 5 minutes of the first monsoon rain, it's full and overflowing. Our wall, our back wall, is already starting to collapse because of the weight of the water that comes off of Ironwood through that property onto ours. Now, this owner did a wonderful job when he cleaned up the mess that was there. We've owned our property for 4 years. We've done a tremendous amount of work cleaning it up, making it a wonderful residential property. He did us a favor. He got rid of the junk, but when he was rebuilding his park, he changed the grade. And all of a sudden, there was a pipe from his property under my wall onto my property, which was now diverting water from his property through my property and down the road. And I've got a huge concern about the way in which the water is being managed coming off of Ironwood through that property onto my property. So I would hope that anybody that's going to do any development of this property is going to take into account that they're going to have to disperse a tremendous amount of water. All of the work that was done south of Apache Trail on Ironwood, God bless you all. But now we got to start with the stuff that's coming from University all the way down Ironwood and onto our properties. We're so badly flooded that we can't even get out of our park onto Saguaro because Saguaro was flooded. It's got nowhere to go. So something has to be done with this issue, and if it's going to be redeveloped, that's got to be a consideration of anybody going in and doing anything. They've got to deal with that water disbursement because it's just not going to get any better.
Okay. Joel, this is just a rezoning, so we can't discuss anything like that because this has nothing to do with the rezoning, whether we grant it or not. This is something he needs to discuss with planning and development or code compliance.
Well, actually, you start with Larry, and Larry can talk to the city engineer to see what kind of issues
We've
exist on the
had the
property.
engineer out, and he said there's nothing he can do about it.
Well, there's nothing we can do about it here, because this is tonight on tonight's agenda, is just a rezoning.
But if the property owner put a pipe underneath your fence, that's a civil matter right there, I would think. That's what we
But
call it.
whether or not he did it or somebody did it before him, but when I
I
was
see.
cleaning up the
Okay.
mess, there's a pipe that's diverting water from his property through mine.
Well, we can talk to the property owners. Hopefully, we can get them here. This will go to the city council.
Okay.
And the property owner hopefully would be at that meeting.
Okay.
And you can certainly voice your opinion to the city council as well, that there's stormwater issues in the neighborhood.
As I say, he's done a marvelous job cleaning up the mess that was there, but we together have a problem we have to deal with. And I think it's a city issue, maybe not this committee, but it's certainly a city issue that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, well, I don't want you to think that we're just
No, I
blowing you off and we don't care. It's just that all this is on our agenda for tonight is a rezoning. We're not approving of anything getting changed there other than.
When you do,
Well, it won't be us.
when somebody does,
Yes.
please take into account.
Okay,
There's this
but
huge
start with them then.
Okay, thank you.
All righty?
Thanks, Mr. Thacker. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else with the public? No one? Hearing none? I will close the public portion, and we will, any discussion? Anyone about anything? No one? Nothing? Okay, I'll call for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Council the approval of rezoning case PZ-1-19, a city-initiated rezoning request for the Prickly Pear RV Park from RVP, Recreational Vehicle Park, to P-2/PD, Old West Commercial by Plan Development, subject to the following conditions of approval from the staff report dated April 23rd, 2019. Condition number 1, to remain as stated. Condition number 2, to remain as stated. Condition number 3 is stricken from the motion. And then a new condition 3, that used to be 4, will remain. And then condition number 4, that used to be 5, will also remain. And then I have two additional conditions. Condition number 5, the owner of the property will cause to have taken down and removed the billboard by a date no later than October 31st, 2019. And condition number 6, failure to comply with condition number 5 will result in the planning staff bringing the case back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for further action.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanshi.
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck.
Yes?
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
So moved, Madam Chair. This goes to council on May 23rd.
Okay. We'll move on to old business. We have the presentation and discussion on code of conduct by the city attorney.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you think you've already seen this, huh? You've seen some other colors, but those were different issues. Some of you have seen this, I believe. And I could read it to you, or we could just go as quickly as you'd like. What's your pleasure?
As quickly as you like.
I thought so. I thought that was the answer.
Well, we've never ever seen this one before.
Okay.
So since we've not seen it, I'm not saying you have to read every single thing, because we can read it also. But if there's anything that we really need to know about.
Well, this was passed by the city council a few months ago. And I think there were 4 hearings on this, or 3. And the history of code of conduct, they're actually, P&Z actually might have one. It's something that's antiquated from 1990. I think I saw one in a packet recently. And I think the Board of Adjustment had one too. But this basically wipes those out, and this is now the code of conduct for all boards and commissions and the city council. And this is common sense stuff. It really is. But some council members felt that some commissioners may not have been following it, or some of them did lack some kind of common sense, so they figured it should be put in writing. Basically, you act in the public interest. So what does that mean? That means you're not here, and you were not appointed for personal reasons. You were put on the board to essentially give recommendations to the city council on city issues. And that is really what the public interest is. You treat everybody equally. You avoid any kind of perceived or potential conflict of interest. And if you think you have one, you should recuse yourself from those kind of conflicts. Comply with the law. Well, you've seen my other law summaries. Those are the kinds of laws. Those are the general kind of laws we're talking about. Professional conduct. This is important. Members shall conduct themselves above reproach and shall avoid even the appearance of impropriety. They should never act in a manner where, 1, their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. 2, they have a personal bias or prejudice concerning a party or representatives thereof, a staff member or members of the public who support or opposes a party. Or 3, they have personal knowledge of facts that are in dispute that would not be known by staff or the public at large. The question is whether their impartiality might be questioned from the perspective of a reasonable person. So that means from, basically, you're being watched all the time. Assume that. So what do you think a reasonable person would determine your actions? What are they doing? People, you're being watched right now. You were watched tonight. And did they see any conflicts? Probably not tonight, but you're always being watched. Just remember that. Public meetings and due process. Members should always perform their duties with due process in mind so that public has a meaningful ability to observe the proceedings and participate in public hearings. I think you've done that very well from what I've seen. I don't think you violate people's due process rights. You come to the meeting prepared, listen to all discussions, focus in on the business at hand. Don't interrupt speakers, and I think you've been really good about that. no personal comments, or any comments that interfere with the ordered progression of meetings. Should always be fair, objective, and respectful. And this was an added thing by the council members. At meetings and on social media, I didn't know what she meant by LTE. She put that in, but then she spelled it out. Letters to the editor. Articles or in other public communications. So what does that mean? That means you could be using social media. It means you shouldn't be commenting on the cases on social media. I would recommend that you not do that because you're being watched. And if you start commenting, say you haven't even done the case yet, and you're already commenting on it on social media, that's bad, and people are watching you. And if your decision affects people in a negative way, meaning their property, say you pass something and you were being watched and you had put something out there on social media, and a neighbor didn't like it, neighbors might bring that up, and a neighbor might decide, okay, they had a conflict. They never should have even voted on this. And that could turn into a court action. And you don't want to be believe me, you don't want to be a defendant, and you certainly don't want to be a witness in any kind of court action. It's not a nice place to be. Okay, let's just move on. Advocacy. Members do not lose your First Amendment rights by virtue of becoming a member. However, when they decide to engage in social media, LTE, articles, or other public statements, they must not hold themselves out as being associated with the city, and they shall explicitly advise that their views do not necessarily reflect the views of the city or the majority of the public body. So, yes, you don't lose your First Amendment rights. That's true. But I think you're held to a higher standard, especially this commission. This is one of the more visible commissions, and I think when there's cases that come forward, you shouldn't be commenting. And you might disagree with me. I would prefer that you don't comment on cases that are coming before or even afterwards. Hey, I voted this way. I don't know why Commissioner so-and-so voted that way. That you should not do. That's not professional. You should just move on, and if you don't agree with it, just be silent on it. Yes, your First Amendment right. Do you have a First Amendment right to do that? You do. But how does that look to the public? And how do they feel about that? What's the reasonable appearance issue? That's really the question. Let's see, going to members, that's section 5B, members shall refrain from attempting to influence other member positions unless such communications and discussions are heard in public at a regularly scheduled public meeting. Members may advocate political positions or participate in political activities in their personal capacities as long as they do not identify themselves as a representative of the city. So that means if you're out there on social media and you want to say, hey, I'm a commissioner member and I think Mr. Heck would be the greatest mayor ever. I mean, that might be a true statement, but you shouldn't be saying that, especially if you identify yourself as a P&Z member. Non-interference with treatment of staff. This one is in there because I think council had some issues with how some staff members were treated in the past. Members should observe the council, manager, form of government, and should not interfere with administrative function of staff, nor impair the ability of staff to implement council policies. So what that means is, and also members may, however, discuss with staff significant projects if they need clarification on processes or need additional information. So that means, can you talk to staff about a case before the hearing? Yes, you can. And then if you think, I'm going to get 3 other members to vote my way, if you start doing that, now you have a quorum problem. Not just a code of conduct issue, but you have a quorum problem. And that is an open meeting law violation, and you certainly don't want to do that. Gifts, favors, that's pretty explanatory. Meeting distractions. This was a big one for council because of these things. Well, nobody has this. I'm the only one in this room that has one of these, probably. And this is 3G, by the way, so I'm sure everybody else is on 4G, but it was iPhones, these things, playing with these while you're up there, talking to the audience while you're up there. That's what the issues were in play. Now, can you have your cell phone waiting for a call from a loved one? Of course. That's not the intent of this section, to prohibit that. But if you answer during the meeting, is that distracting? Yes, it is. I remember a former council member would answer the phone during the sessions. And that was just distracting. Yeah, they'd get up and leave, but still, it was loud, it was turned on, and try to keep your phone off, or at least on silent or on vibrating. And if it does ring, you have to take it, answer it, and leave the room if you could. That would be the best way to go on that. Also, nonverbal body language. This was another one that was heavily discussed and played with. So a lot of this got edited after 3 or 4 meetings. But on that one, it's when you're up there, the cameras are on you, and there might be a full house. So if you don't agree with something, if you roll your eyes, is that going to be noticed? Maybe, maybe not. But if you have a sigh and go, oh, because you didn't like exactly, try not to do that. And maybe sometimes that's impossible because of something somebody's saying, a speaker or even an applicant sometimes. And you just don't believe the person. That happened at Board of Adjustment a few times, actually. That was a little embarrassing, but try to keep that under control. No member shall attempt to influence an election using their elected or appointed status, nor shall use public facilities, public meetings, or staff to accomplish such act. Well, I haven't seen that too often. I did see a commissioner get a magnet for his truck, and he put on there, Planning and Zoning Commissioner, and he slapped it on like a realtor would. And then that planning commissioner drove on to the properties that were subject to whatever item was being discussed. And the owner come out saying, what the hell are you doing? Who are you? I'm a planning commission member. I'm allowed to be here. And the city would not ever endorse that kind of activity. But that particular commissioner thought he could do it. I guess you could do that in Chicago. I think that's where, or was he from a different state? I don't remember, but it was embarrassing for the city. Could have been Riverside.
San Francisco.
Okay, this one is very important. This was cut down from what it was, but it still has a real good meaning to it. Communication with litigants. Members should use caution while communicating with litigants or the representatives during any pending lawsuits against the city. However, social graces such as waving or exchanging pleasantries may be extended.
I have a question for you about that. This is the one that I just wondered about specifically. It says that we will use caution with litigants during any pending lawsuit. But it doesn't say that members should use caution while communicating with applicants during any pending rezoning requests or things. It's okay to talk to them till they become a litigant and are suing the city?
Madam Chair, this language, believe me, was not the language that I had written. However, I was told to do that, and this is what we have. So what does use caution mean? I think that means be reasonable when you're talking to someone you know has sued the city or has threatened the city.
So this is only involved with
It
any
says
legal
litigants.
suit. It has nothing to do with an applicant and them talking to us or us
No, but
talking
that's
to them.
another common sense issue. There are some attorneys who like to talk to every commissioner before the case. And they have a right to do that.
Okay.
And you can talk to them. However, there's another argument that is, you know what, everything really needs to be in public. and even the discussions with the attorney, because the attorney might tell Commissioner Howard one thing and might leave that out because they want to get an edge on the other commissioner. And that does happen. I'm not saying it happens a lot, but that does happen. And that they're just doing what they can for their client. And, you know, might be some ethical issues there, but, I mean, I think you shouldn't be talking to applicants. I think it should all be done in public. That's how it should be done, but is there a law against it? No, there's not a law against it.
Excuse me.
Now, yes.
Wouldn't that be covered under section 3, basically, though? Members shall conduct themselves above
Yes.
reproach.
I think,
You know, and any impartiality in that.
I think it would be covered there. Like I said, it's not under this one, but generally, I think that
Any
it's common
improprietors.
sense.
Yeah.
But the litigant part is an issue, and you have to be careful. If you know someone,
Well, that's the point, Joel. It's just an opinion. If you know about it.
if you know,
If you don't know that
That-
that something's going on, for somebody to tell me that I can waive and exchange pleasantries, that whole last section shouldn't even be there. That is,
well,
it's ridiculous.
that's what the council, this is the end
Just my
product.
opinion.
And but if you know that the person is suing the city,
If you know.
if you know, and you might not know, but if it's a heavily publicized case, you know, maybe you do know, or you're friends with that individual, then you need to recuse yourself from any item that comes up involving that individual. If you're friends with that person and they are suing the city, I think that should happen. Is that common sense? Yes, it is. Some people don't have any common sense. So let's move on. Criticism of staff. Well, this one is also covered a little bit in some of the others. Criticism of staff by members shall be forwarded to the city manager and shall not take place in public. Staff should always be treated as professionals by members, especially in public. That's all Larry wants. That's right.
You look great, you look great tonight, Larry.
You're just gonna get away from me, buddy.
Attendance at meetings. If an appointed member knows they will be unable to attend, they should notify the respective staff designee assigned to the particular board or commission and the chairperson of the respective board or commission. So it's basically call Larry up, hey, I'm going to be gone, or Rudy, and say, I'm going to be gone, and then you get an excused absence. If you don't call, there's something in the city code that says after 3 unexcused absences, staff can recommend to council that you be removed. So that can happen. General rules of decorum. Some of this is also overlapping in some of the other sections. Shall at all times avoid engaging in personal attacks, be polite to speakers regardless of any adverse positions, treat the public and staff with respect, dress professionally, actively listen without diversions. Once again, no sidebar communications of any sort, no disrespect or rude use of electronic devices, no eating of the dais unless there's a medical need. So if you're talking among yourselves while we're in session, don't do that, because everything's supposed to be in public. That's how it's supposed to work. Incompatibility of office, that's pretty straightforward. Section 15 doesn't really apply to this board. Legal training, there may be some legal training that comes up that the council wants all board and commission members, or especially new ones, to go through. And you're really supposed to do those if Larry makes them available. And okay, you just violated that other one that says no food at the dais.
That wasn't food.
Oh, that wasn't? Oh, I thought it was a coffee. I'm sorry.
That was coffee. It wasn't food.
Oh, that's a drink. Okay.
And it was coffee.
Okay. Staff recommendations. Members should not take staff recommendations lightly. Staff personnel are specialists in the area and have come before the public body in their capacity after years of study and experience. The recommendations of staff are typically technically correct. Members may, however, ask for clarification or further explanation if there's some confusion on staff positions. So what does all that mean? Are those two gentlemen geniuses? Absolutely,
Yes,
they are.
they are.
They absolutely are. However, you can disagree with them if it's a policy issue. But if it's a technical issue, hey, this is B1 and not B5, they know that. They know that. They do not make mistakes that often, especially on zoning nomenclature. If it's a policy issue, you could say, well, thank you, Larry. I understand, but I disagree with you. I think these should be 4,000 square foot lots, not 3,000 square foot lots. I mean, that's something that you can certainly address them on. Are there any questions?
Yes. Yes, Joel, I have a question. Are all boards and commissions going to be receiving this training from you?
Yes. Well, actually, the larger ones, and actually the ones that don't meet very often, I already sent out, and actually you all should have received these via email.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you need hard copies, I'd be happy to give those to you.
We got-
Sometimes when you get them on the,
We got,
You have a hard copy.
okay, so Barb made them for you, but like the other ones, sometimes when you print them out, they don't come out too good from a different.
from black and white.
Yes. So I'd be happy to provide copies if you need them, if you need
I think
extra
we
copies too.
already were, weren't we?
Just let me know.
Yeah.
So, but the larger ones, I am meeting with Park and Rec a few weeks and also the library board. And then I'm done with the larger commission.
I mean, I gotta listen to this again.
You do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, is there any none? Then, information and reports? Nothing exciting?
Well, Madam Chair, there is going to be a focal group meeting that's going to be discussing the Founder's Day on, I think it's May the 6th at the library at 7 o'clock. And Mayor Surdy is interested in finding all the volunteers that he can to attend that meeting and be a part of that group.
Commissioner, I think it's
Is it May 6th?
May 2nd.
May 2nd. Thank you, Joel.
That's where it is.
Oh, that's
I
one.
knew I had
Okay.
something.
And it's
Okay.
at 7 o'clock, isn't it, Joel?
I don't
I've got
remember.
down 6.
I
6?
have it at home, but I don't have it here.
Okay, so,
Darn
Okay.
close, though.
thank you. Thank you.
I'll just add on to that. 2022 is when,
2022 is the,
when George Cleveland Curtis named and founded Apache Junction. He was a salesman from Utah. He and his wife and 3 daughters came down here, and he pitched a tent down there in the center of town. And this used to be called Youngberg, and he said that was ridiculous, that nobody should name a town after themselves. And when he became a stakeholder, he renamed this Apache Junction. And what the Focal Point Group is doing is wanting to have all the city. I've already talked to Bryant a year ago or more about this, that we want to have all the city departments, Parks and Rec, everybody, any event that they put on, any nonprofits throughout the whole year, any service organizations, anybody, any events that they put on, that everybody's theme be the Founding Father. It'll be the centennial for that, so that's what that's all
Just
about.
another FYI, periodically, I think twice a year, we put on these mayor's breakfasts, so I don't know if folks of you know that. It's usually talking about homeless issues, housing. So there is a strategic plan for homelessness that's going on right now through the city's homeless coalition. And I want to say that that is next Wednesday or Thursday, is it
Something,
May 2nd.
yeah, everything.
So if you're interested or you want to know about it, I think there's about 85 people signed up already. So
Ooh.
it's getting pretty full. It's going to be at the MGC. If you are thinking about that, let me know, and I can let Heather Patel in our office know.
and that
Anybody
is
else?
on,
You have to RSVP. You can't show up because they got to know how much food to order. So
Yeah.
That's on the same day as the focus group, focal?
Well, I think it's in the morning, though. It's at 7 a.m., I
That's
believe.
like at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning.
Correct. Yeah, 7 a.m., yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, director's report.
I'm going to just kick it off. I'm going to have Sydney maybe give us a little update on where we're at with surveys and things like that. I don't know where the status of the bill is that was going to move the election date up 3 weeks, but we were counting on the third Tuesday in August for a vote on the plan. That would be August of 2020. So if the legislature moves that primary date up 3 weeks, that kind of makes us move everything up 3 weeks. So we had initially planned on adopting the general plan by council February 4th, I think it is, of 2020. May have to move that up into January. That might move us up a couple weeks. We are getting drafts in from the various departments and interns. Thank you very much. And so we're working on it. I don't know if Sydney, you wanted to talk about what kind of survey response and what kind of meetings we've been going to over the last couple months?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Larry. So we've been to a number of meetings and community stakeholders. At these meetings, we've presented the survey both in person and presenting the link online. Our really focus was to get as much community input as possible. Initially, our goal was to receive about 1,000 survey responses. To this date, we're about 1,300, so we've surpassed that. As Larry has probably mentioned in the past meetings, other communities hire PR firms and things like that. They spend a tremendous amount of money trying to obtain data from the public. We've been able to do that in-house. We're going to be closing the survey at the end of this month, so just in a few days or so, about 7 days. And that's when we're really going to be taking those final results and implementing them and writing them into the plan. As Larry just mentioned, we're receiving drafts from various departments, and you will be receiving drafts before you probably by July.
I think our next public meeting is June 19th or something like that, Wednesday?
It's, yes, I think it's actually June 16th.
16th. So we've had a couple of public evening meetings, not a lot of great attendance, but we've gone out to area Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce, school board, et cetera, et cetera. We had a booth at the Blues and Brews Festival, at the Marathon Expo, trying to get folks to learn about the plan. State of the City, we were out there. So I want to say we've been people don't come to meetings anymore, you kind of have to go to them. So once the plan is drafted, we may have to do another type of event like that. I guess if we can get 84 people to the mayor's breakfast, we might have to have our own general plan mayor's breakfast or something like that.
No, they'll wait till you sign it on the dotted line and made a plan, and then they'll come out of the woodwork and complain.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could, put a freeway right up through Delaware or something,
Yeah.
and then we get a lot of people to show up at a meeting, so.
Yeah.
I think we're on schedule, so you'll be getting more of the document, I think July, August, September, October, depending on how it goes. We have 12 chapters, so we might, some of them we could do, one or two at the same meeting or have a special meeting and things like that. And then we will be yes, we're gonna have special meetings if we need them. And then Joel would like, obviously, to make sure it's a legal document, so Joel will have some non-policy oriented review on the document. So that's all I have for that. So
Okay. Selection of meeting dates, times, location, and purpose.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission hold a regular meeting on May 14th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the City Council Chambers located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard.
We have a motion. Excuse me. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please, Rudy.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Kreidler.
Yes.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yes.
Chairwoman Nesser.
Yes.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanshi.
Yes.
Vice Chair Heck.
Yes.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, and unless I hear any objection, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:26 p.m. on Tuesday.
thank you.
April 23rd.